GPT 5.2 is out and it boasts good reasoning capabilities. And so I want to put it to the test by testing out if it can help me answer an age old question. How do we know if we're doing a good job as developers? How do we know if we're being productive and breaking down that word? So I asked it, what's a good measure of a team's productivity, a software team's productivity? I asked it to consider the McKinsey report from a few years ago, which was a controversial take where they said they could quantify productivity. And I'm hoping it picked up what I meant by that. And then I said, add your own reasoning about how to best measure this. So it gave me some out of the box nonsense, with some links at least. But earlier I asked it to create a spreadsheet that compares productivity of modern software companies to that of industrial factories, making sure all the data is factually accurate and including the sources. And to give it credit, it thought for 15 minutes. It compiled a spreadsheet, and it did come up with an interesting way to actually attempt to solve or answer this problem, which in and of itself was better than what Perplexity gave me. They basically said, you know what, we can't do it. It can't be given here, and told me how to figure out the numbers for myself about this. But let's look at the spreadsheet. Let's see what the data is. What this actually does is compares revenue by head count and then determines revenue by employee. And it doesn't have the data from the industrial era, which is what I was looking for. However, that might not even exist, at least on the internet. So I don't blame it. It did find an industrial era company that survived with Ford and got their numbers, and then had like a little sector summary and sources here, which I haven't verified. But overall, I'm seeing some good reasoning, and it has some links. The formatting of this table is better than it used to be in previous models. So I'm okay with this. I don't think I don't think there's like an answer that it should have gotten and it just didn't. I think it's just a hard question. So I'm going to take a little bit of what they gave us here and try to answer it myself. So earlier I asked it to give me a contrarian argument on what the idea of productivity is. And I wanted that because I think we're upside down in how we think about this topic in pop culture. And I kind of like what it's pointing out. It said that productivity used to be output per hour worked in the factory and that was a decent measure of your processes. But now that we're in the knowledge economy, that just doesn't apply. We all know that it doesn't work like that when you're working from home, when you're in front of the computer, when you can work from your phone, when you can pretend to work but not actually do anything, when it looks like you're not working but you actually are working in the background while you're at the gym or grocery shopping or things like that. So it's kind of pointing that out, and then it pointed to me some, generic quotes about this. So I went out to Reddit and I found not answers but some confirmation that me and you aren't the only ones who are feeling this way. Like this guy says it's December and he's been busy but not really doing anything. Watching YouTube videos, reading articles, listening to podcasts, consuming everything but retaining nothing, no direction, no plan, just existing. So now it's December, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I feel like this might even be AI who is doing this post, and I think this top comment is AI. But anyway, it's still valid feeling. So I looked at, for developers, what can you do to measure? And I found actual research from GitHub. This was from 2021, and it's a really interesting read. I'll post in the chat here. But if I could summarize this for you, it's that it's multidimensional, and then they have an acronym for how they suggest measuring it, and there's 5 things. So already it's kind of like a lot. They call it SPACE. So they say measure your satisfaction of your employees, your performance, your activity. So this is like commits or velocity, communication and collaboration. Okay, and efficiency and flow. Just empty words to me. But what concept did stick out was pointing out the difference between. Actually, this came from the McKinsey report, I think. They call it inner loop and outer loop productivity. So inner loop is when developers are in the flow and they're just working on their thing, integration tests, setting things up. Outer loop is security, compliance, QA, just other stuff that they have to deal with. So they're pointing out like, hey, these are different things and they're both going to affect your productivity differently. And if you tackle one, it might positively impact the other. And then they have their index for how to do this. And I'm sure their index has some generic stuff about blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't know. If you can tell I'm a little frustrated, I think it's because we're missing the point here. It's like, it feels like we're trying to fit a square and a triangular hole, and that's not how it works, man. Like, you try to boil things down to a number, and I just don't think you can with coders and developer productivity. And that's someone who just set up a metrics dashboard for me and my teammate, but that's based on outcomes. So the dashboard tracks traffic and retention, so how many users come back to the app week after week and how often they use it. And those are supposed to be like leading indicators of our revenue. And our revenue is supposed to be, or is, a reflection of how helpful we're being. So if we built something that's just crap and that no one wants or needs, then they're never going to pay us for anything. And it's like as simple as that in my mind. It gets really complicated and messy when you're in a big company and you have hundreds of teams and it's hard to know who is responsible for what. Microsoft, I found out during this report, had like 200,000 plus employees. And it's like, well, okay, what do you do with that? It's hard to, you have so many products and things like that. But when we just bring it down to the basics, it's like we as developers are making things and then we're offering it to people. And the idea is once they consume it, then their lives are better because of it. And we were productive by doing that. And however it works for you to make the thing and offer it to the people, like that's what matters. I'm trying to boil this down for myself about like getting clear that it's not this complicated, bro. it's not this complicated to be productive. It really comes down to being a producer, like creating a thing and then giving it to someone and then seeing if they benefit from it. This is different than being a consumer of endless productivity or startup-y, techie podcasts. This is different than being a wannabe producer where you're just coding all the time, but you never actually release anything. This is different than working on 10 businesses at once, but never actually like publishing anything. It's really just like making something and giving it to people. And I keep coming back to that. Like, yeah, maybe the metrics are nice, but if I just wake up every day and I try to be helpful and I make things that are helpful, whether it's content, whether it's a PDF, whether it's sharing my notes or my Notion templates or the full-blown app I've built, My whole goal is to just help other people. And if I give them what they want, then some of it will trickle back to me in the form of revenue and other things, and I'll be fine. So day to day, I just got to create helpful things and just get better at doing that. If you're thinking about New Year's goals, if you're thinking about what do I do next year, or how do I get ahead, or what's my direction, I hope this helps. The motto I'm telling myself is just be helpful. Just make stuff, release it, and be helpful. It really might be that simple. Aside from all the metrics and spreadsheets and productivity courses and frameworks, and there's a whole bookstore section about productivity. It's like, bro, can we just make stuff? Can we just make stuff and give it to people? Maybe it's that simple. If you agree, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the next one.